Welcome back to the Morgan Ortagus Show on Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125. I'm really excited. We're a week and a half away from the election, and we have one of the most important surrogates for President Donald J. Trump, the man who also carries the name of Donald Trump Jr. Welcome to the Morgan Ortagus Show. Thanks so much for being with me today in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Good to be here.
So we are less than a week, 2 weeks away, I guess a week and a half away at this point. It's all starting to run together. I was just in Michigan with our friend Rick Grinnell. I've been here for a couple days in Pennsylvania. You're here. I will tell you what you can't capture in the polls. I keep hearing the national media saying it's neck and neck, it's so close. The enthusiasm on the ground is something not even, I didn't see this in 2020, I didn't see this in 2016. It's like both both election years combined on the ground.
Yeah, no, it's a totally different feeling. This is not my first rodeo. I've probably been the guy on the ground more than anyone over the last, 3 presidential cycles. And, what I see right now is just, it's unlike anything. And I don't mean just, at a rally where people show up and they're excited. I mean, like at the airport going to the rally where no one's expecting to run into you. The enthusiasm, the diversity of demographics that are like, okay, we've had enough of this nonsense. You guys were right. It's okay. Like, right. I get it. I was wrong. I'm just seeing that all over the place. It just feels really strong when you start looking at some of the early vote numbers. I mean, I think, we're absolutely crushing that. And it's not even our highest propensity voters. It's not like all the guys that were voting on election day actually voted early. We did a thing. We saw the early vote numbers. I was in Arizona last week. Same thing in North Carolina. And you go and you say, oh, we broke all these records on day one of, early voting. And it's like, well, what is it? And then you do a big rally for like 1,000 people that night. Raise your hand if you voted early already. And it was like 5% of the room. So we're actually turning up those mid and low propensity voters to vote early. They're into it, but it wouldn't be our traditional base. Those guys hadn't even voted yet, which is a really good feeling.
It's been such a crazy election year. If somebody would have told me a year ago that the Democratic nominee for president would be campaigning in Texas and the Republican nominee would be in New York.
And Virginia. And like all these.
And California and selling out Coachella.
I want to see DJT's Coachella outfit, by the way. That's, I want to win the presidency, but like the next thing after that is I want to see that outfit because.
I'm only mildly offended that I wasn't invited to the Coachella one. Maybe I've aged out of Coachella and DJT.
I think we all have. I don't know. Maybe not DJT.
So what's interesting here in Pennsylvania, in Scranton, you and I were just talking about this. First of all, we sent out just some text. We had 1,200 people respond right away. Normally you lose like about half the people. We're jam-packed. You'll see everybody here in a minute. We are, totally packed in there, lots of food. Everybody's excited to see you. But what's really interesting about this district that we're in, Pennsylvania 8, is that this is the district that Joe Biden grew up in till he was 11. Bob Casey lives here. There's an incumbent Democratic House member, Rob Bresnahan's trying to flip this seat, and both your father and Dave McCormick are really trying to drive up numbers in this district to make sure we win the state. So why is it important for you to be here in Pennsylvania?
Listen, I think whatever we can do to make people understand the importance, right? The reality is everyone watches the news and it's just so flagrantly biased. And if, you're like or me, or if you're listening to this show, you're sort of all in. You've been paying attention, right? You understand what's going on, but there's a lot of people that are struggling to get by. They're listening to a couple minutes of news a day, and if it's the CNN version, of the truth, which is a lie and total misinformation, you still have some of those biases. Now, I don't know that holds all that well just because, you see it every day with your own eyes, right? I always tell the story sort of on the campaign trail, like, taking my kids last summer, to McDonald's. It was me and 2 of my boys coming back from a fishing trip, and it was $48. And if Donald Trump Jr. has sticker shock at McDonald's, folks, we got a problem, right?
Like, it was $48.
It was $48 for a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old, and me. And I was like, that's not right. Something's off. You see that. You see the wars going on. You saw now Israel's now attacking Iran directly. Iran attacked, Israel a couple weeks ago. Not through proxies anymore. They're just outright doing it.
Never would have happened.
Would have never happened. We need strength. America needs leadership, from the front. They need someone with resolve and character and guts and an understanding of the world. Joe Biden never had that. It's why they pounced. Kamala Harris has surprisingly less than Joe Biden, which is saying something given.
It takes effort.
That takes a lot. I mean,
it takes effort to be that
It's like, I don't know whether to be upset or impressed because it's a level of like incompetence that we've truly never seen before. I mean, you're watching her over the last few weeks be asked, in the 3 interviews that she does, she gets the same questions. And it's like when you flub it the first time and the whole world is like, how do you not know the answer to that? You would think that, by the next one, A week later, you'd have some talking points. You'd come up with an answer knowing it's going to be asked again. And yet now I'm seeing 3, 4, 5 of the same basic, like not complicated stuff. The border. When did you notice Joe Biden's, like, come up with an answer. And it's just word salad, incompetence. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that's going to encourage our enemies. They love the idea of a Kamala Harris presidency because, again, when America exudes weakness, our enemies will capitalize on it. That's the nature of predation. That's a story as old as time.
And this is a national security and foreign policy show every Sunday on SiriusXM for 2 hours. And what I keep reminding my listeners is that this is, it's 2024. Xi Jinping has told the PLA, the Chinese military, to be ready by 2027 to invade Taiwan. So, and who knows if he's actually going to do it or not, but that means you have a binary choice. Do you want Harris or do you want Trump in the room with Xi Jinping when he's making those deterrence decisions? Because remember, the last time she was sent to meet Putin before Putin invaded Ukraine.
3 days.
That didn't turn out so well. So how is she going to get back in the room with Putin, back in the room with Xi Jinping, back in the room with the Ayatollah?
She can't handle an interview with Bret Baier on Fox News without losing her mind and going totally unhinged. Like she's not capable of these things. It's not, well, it's a woman, it's this. It has nothing to do with that. It's simply a question of competence. She rose to the top for all of the wrong reasons, throughout her career. She's never excelled in anything. She claims she's a prosecutor, never really tried any actual cases, and just keeps getting this artificial boost. But that artificial boost from a mainstream media that is a $1 trillion institution functioning as your marketing department, big tech, another $1 trillion institution putting their full weight and might, trying to either pretend that she's competent or just suppress anyone that's a detractor or talking about the truth of her record. These people are pretending like Kamala Harris started her campaign in, her first trip and foray into politics was, a month ago when she orchestrated the most democratic coup in the history of coups that no one ever got a vote for. No, she's a radical San Francisco Democrat. She always has been. She was the most liberal senator in the United States Senate. That's not me saying it. That's like the people who do this within the government saying that. And they're trying to remake her as this moderate, but she's the daughter of a Marxist professor. That'd be like me waking up one morning and being like soft as Donald Trump Jr. It's just not going to happen, right? That's not in the cards. Like, she's not going to be a moderate. She's going to be a radical San Francisco Democrat, but they're going to cover that. They're going to pretend that's not the case because they understand that's not a popular notion with the populace these days.
I've heard some people say too, I've heard this argument, well, it would be nice to have a woman. And I just think, but why, right? As a woman in politics, a woman in national security, it's not about the gender. It's about who can stand tough with the dictators and despots in the room. And we had peace, we had the Abraham Accords, we had no new wars under Trump. And listen, again, this is a foreign policy show. I'm greatly worried about what she would do. We don't know. The only people that we know that she surrounded herself are people that helped write the JCPOA, flawed nuclear deal that your dad got out of.
No, I think it would be a disaster because it's clear she doesn't have a fundamental issue, like an understanding of the basic issues, let alone the complex issues that have nuance. And, my father was able to keep all of these dictators in check because they weren't quite sure.
Yeah.
She's like it's just a textbook. Like, I'm going to follow the playbook. They have the playbook. They know what they're doing. Like, we're going into a negotiation with our, our best cases, sort of, that's what we're handing them on the table, as opposed to maybe we can do better. They don't even think that way. She wouldn't be capable of it. And so it's not that we're not ready for a woman president. I'd take a competent woman president, over an incompetent anyone any day, but this is just not that person. And I think anyone who's watched her for more than a few seconds over the last couple months understands that. There's a reason they took her out of the basement. It wasn't because that strategy of hiding her was working. Yeah. The problem is they're sort of putting her back in the basement because they realized that taking her out of the basement and giving her a microphone was actually significantly worse than just hiding her.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a few quick personal things. You grew up with a famous father. Yeah. Everybody, we all grew up watching you guys on The Apprentice. What's the difference between when your dad was just a celebrity and now the past, 18 years when you've been in politics? How's life different?
Well, life's different just from the attacks, right? I guess, I'm kind of a fighter, so it's okay. I'm used to that. But just the endless vitriol, the nonsense, the demeaning stuff, and they do that. I understand that's the game. It's fine. I'm a big boy, but it was sort of ironic watching all of these people that loved him for decades and kissed his butt and whatever it may be. All of a sudden they're like, I've never met that guy in my life. I'm like, I don't know. Here's a picture of us at dinner 3 weeks ago. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's sort of, that aspect is interesting. Although, for me, I guess, there's a component of it that's cathartic in the sense that, you always have these people that you have, lunch with once a year, and it's like, okay, he's a buddy from college or XYZ, former business, whatever. Okay, fine, I'll reluctantly go do that lunch. When you see them posting, by the way, they'll text you and kiss your butt, say you're doing great things. Then you see them on Facebook saying the opposite, trying to,
weird.
Clout chase or, virtue signal, whatever it is that they're doing. It's like, they're like, wait, you don't pick up the phone anymore. It's like, no, it's all good. We're good. Like, so it was actually very cleansing. I got rid of that, 50% of the friends that weren't real friends. So there's good and bad with everything. I like to the bright side. I don't waste my time on those lunches anymore.
So JD Prince is a friend of yours and mine. I was so excited when your father picked him. We interviewed him on the show about a week before, and I was hoping that your father would make the announcement so we could do it on the show. Yeah. But we had him on. He was great. I had a lot of people, like business executives, asking me because they knew we were friends, and they said, "Well, help me understand the pick." And I said, "You know what? Watch the debate." Watch the debate and then get back to me. And I was in Miami last week, and I literally had one of the business executives who had asked me that question said, I get it now. I was skeptical. I'm a changed man after that debate. Yeah. How's he doing?
I think he's crushing it. I mean, I knew this all along. I've gotten to know him very well over the last few years. I think I expended about 1,000% of my political capital with my father. I have no more favors left from my father for like the next 25 years. To get that one. And, you go up against some powerful forces, the special interests and the billionaire class that they want their puppet VP in there. And I wanted someone who wasn't going to be that. I wanted someone who could kind of carry the mantle of America first post Trump and not just simply revert back to sort of the neocon warmonger section of the party.
Right.
And, that's failed not only, the American people on a geopolitical basis, but also from a jobs creation and everything standpoint. So, JD was clearly that guy, and I've experienced the same thing, which is like people have literally come up to me like, I was calling you all sorts of bad names for about a week that you did this, and and they're like, I was totally wrong. The guy just gets it. He does it in such a elegant way as well when he's destroying people, but he does it in a
so nice about it.
Yeah, he's so nice about it. But he's also kind of there's a wonkiness to him also. Like he gets these things. He understands the depth of some of these issues, and he can also simplify it to the American people. I mean, I think that you see that on the Sunday shows when he just systematically dismantles these. Now most of them are morons, but they think they're smart, and because they have a platform, others think they're smart. They're not, but just dismantling them. Whether it was Martha Raddatz, whether it's this, whether it's what he did to Tim Walz in that debate. I mean, I'm watching the debate. I put out a tweet like 3/4 of the way through. I'm like, Tim Walz is like agreeing with everything he's saying. I'm like, I think he's voting for Trump now. It's like it's sort of amazing. So no, I couldn't be more impressed with JD. And every time I see him speak, I'm like a little bit more vindicated because there were a lot of people that were not very thrilled with me for about a 1 week, 2 week period of time when they were knifing him and all that. And once he got going. There was no stopping him.
I was at the VP debate. I was in Nashville with Tommy Lahren and Clay Travis and Pete Hegseth. We were doing something for Fox Nation. And about 15 minutes in, I realized that I had exhaled because I'm so used to being tense during these debates. And I'm like, all right, I think I want a beer. This is going to be a good night. Yeah. I remember in the 2016 Republican convention, you and your siblings were celebrities already, but you were really new to the Republican Party. And I remember being the 16 convention, everybody wanted to get like a glimpse of you guys, and people were really excited about speaking because the party had been ruled by another family that you dismantled and took over the party from. And so it was cool for us. So for people who have been in the party for a while, everyone wanted to get a glimpse of you guys. And when you spoke at the 2016 convention, there was all of this talk that Don Jr. was going to run for mayor of New York City. But I still think a lot of people want you to run. Would you ever do it?
Maybe one day. Right now my eyes are on the prize. This is the only one that matters, right? We gotta win this. This is like, in the next 9 days we decide sort of Western civilization, like the future of it. That's a big deal. So I'll worry about that some other day. You never know. I think the only I love aspects of it. That historically we don't do all that well. Like I'm okay fighting. I don't mind. We do this. No, we must be cordial. I'm like, they're not cordial. They'd throw you in the gulags. How can you be cordial to someone who would literally lock you up if they could? And they've quite literally are trying to do that.
When they're not trying to shoot you.
Yeah, when they're not trying to shoot you, or whatever it may be. So, but you also have to want the day job. So maybe one day, but right now. Let's get DJT in there. Let's fix some of this nonsense. Let's set up that party for the future, and then who knows if the window opens. I did I became sort of a junkie. I'm super into it.
I can tell.
And again, my skill set's sort of one of those that doesn't really, not that many people in the party have or are willing to have. And but I love that we've created a JD and help let those guys rise and shine so that we actually have a bench to choose from. So it's not like, okay, we got Trump or and what's else? What else after Donald Trump? It was like there's, well, the Don Jr. I was like, well, but we need more than just that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you're making a bench.
You get hit by a bus tomorrow. Who knows? You need. I actually believe in this stuff. It's not about power. Like, if we wanted easy or we wanted to make money, this was not the right business to be in. Like, that's not for us at least. Everyone else does great. For us, it was a lot of headache, a lot of hardship, a lot of nonsense, and it's still ongoing, as you know. So, but it's really about just preserving our republic and making sure that our children can grow up in a place that they recognize.
Final question, speaking about the future. So I was having lunch, I think it was, maybe breakfast with your dad in January. He was getting ready, maybe he had either just come, I think he had just gotten back from golfing. And I told him, I'm going to learn to golf this year. I'm going to take lessons. I didn't think about the fact that it was election year and I'd be crazy busy. I did take a few, but one of the things I started doing is following your daughter on Instagram. Because she's a great golfer. So speaking of the future of drums, I think it might be your daughter.
It could. I mean, everyone comes up to me like, so, she was with me when my father was shot the first time, and that was.
I didn't know that she was with you.
Oh yeah, she. Like I got the very uncharacteristic call of like, "Hey, Dad, I want to go fishing." I'm like, "Who are you and what have you done with my daughter?" Like it's but when your 17-year-old daughter calls you, it's like, "We're going fishing." You're like, "So we're going fishing." So we were out there and we got the call. We were 10 miles offshore because live in Florida and scrambling back in, and we didn't know for an hour, or 90 minutes really, what had even happened, if he was okay or not, and so it was pretty tough on her, and. That was Saturday. On Monday morning, she calls me, and that was the first day of the RNC. She's like, I'm speaking at the RNC. I'm like, oh, really? Like, oh, we're just going to bump some governor for you, Kai. Like, she's like, no. Like, I'm speaking. Like, I'm sick of this crap. Like, enough of this nonsense with Grandpa. Because she's like his golf buddy, right? Like, they play every weekend. Like, she has spent more time with my dad than I have. Like, at 17, because they're literally always together that way. So, she just took it so personally that she was like, I don't care. I'm doing this. And I call him, I'm like, hey, what do you think? He's like, wow, that's a big one. That's your first speech is going to be in front of like 40,000 people live and 10 million people, 100 million people on TV, who knows? And he's like, you know what, that kid's a winner, let her do it, she'll be great. And she did, and of course, that was the most nervous I've ever been during a speech. I don't get nervous for my speeches anymore, but I'm sitting there like, oh God, because you see the people in the view trying to tear her apart the next day, and they had nothing. You could see it was just a major fail. They were just really upset that she did well, and it was just such a great contrast to the insanity of the other side.
Smart.
And so that was
sweet.
Everyone's like, hey, Don, you did fine at your speech at the RNC, but your daughter really was good. I'm like, it's great, thanks guys.
And she's a great golfer. We got to get back to this rally. So this is the Morgan Ortagus Show on Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125 with the one and only Donald Trump Jr.